Welcome back. We're all used to writing SQL queries, right? So I can write select star from course. This is a SQL query. I can write select start from course where let's say name like percentage 100 steps. So I can do things like this. This would run the query and it would return me things which match that specific thing. So it's if you look at the query, it's select star from course where name like percentage 100 steps within single quotes. So this is a normal SQL query which we write, right? So this is select star from course, and here we are defining a where condition where name like we are defining a condition, or I can say where ID is equal to 1. This fetches only the first row because it matches the ID 1. So this is normal SQL. However, there is something called JPQL. This is Java Persistence Query Language. In SQL, what we do is we query from the database tables. In JPQL, we query from entities. So this is from tables, this is from relationship. SQL queries from where? SQL queries from tables, whereas JPQL queries from entities. Whatever JPQL queries that we write, those are converted into SQL queries by the JPA implementation, that is Hibernate. What we write would be JPQL queries, which would be using entities. So we write JPQL queries using the entities, and those are converted into SQL queries talking to the tables. So JPQL provides a way of writing queries using entities. How do we write JPQL queries? So for example, select star from course. Let's say I want to do a query of this kind. Select star from course. In JPQL, the syntax will be very simple. So select here, instead of star, I would need to do something else. So from where I would want to query from entity. Here we are not talking about this table course, but we are actually talking about the entity. The entity which we have in here is course. It's also having the same name as course. Select star from course as the name of the entity, and I'm giving it an alias C. I'll say select C from course. That's the JPQL query, which is similar to select star from course. What we'll do in this step, we'll write a few simple JPQL queries and try and execute them. So let's start with executing this query, select C from course C. What we'll do is we'll create a simple unit test. I'll copy the course repository test that we have, and I'll call this JPQL test. And inside this, I would remove everything else except for the first test. So let's remove all the other stuff. And over here, I would want to be able to execute a query. Instead of course repository, we would want to use an entity manager. Entity manager, or I can just say EM. And the way I can execute a query, em dot create query. That's the way you can actually create a query. Over here, I can pass in whatever we have written in here. Select C from course. So this is the way you can create a query, and you can execute the query by saying dot get result list. And I would take this and store it to a new local variable. This is returning a result list back, and let's log it out. So logger dot info. I'll put the query also just for us to be able to search. So, and it's returning what? It's returning this value back. What is that value? That value is result list. Cool, right? So let's now run this unit test and see what it returns back. Green bar, and you can see that this is what is printed on the log. So it's saying all the things that we expected. So it's saying web services in 100 steps, AngularJS in 100 steps updated, JPA in 50 steps, and all the other kind of stuff that's present in here. That's pretty cool, right? So now we are able to query using the JPQL. We would want to do a few more things with the JPQL. Let's write a couple of more simple queries. One of the things here is that I'm using a raw type. I'm not really using the fact that this query would return a course back. How do I do that? How can I get this query to say that I am going to return a course back, I can use another parameter, course dot class. So over here, what we are doing is typed. So now when I actually, let's create a local variable out of this. So this is a query, right? So when we create the query here, we are actually using something called a typed query. So typed query of course, we are saying this is returning a course back. However, if you look at this, if I extract this to a local variable by saying Alt Shift L and say query, this is using a simple query. Typed query is when I'm passing the type. I'm saying this is the query you need to execute, and this is the kind of results that I expect back. I expect results of type course.class. Now, when I get the results back, I can add type arguments as well. So I can change type to list of course. This is much better, right? So this is better typed. So I'm saying instead of just list, I'm saying this is list of course. Typed queries are always better because they make it easy to read your program. It makes it very clear what results you are expecting back. So this is find by ID typed. So here we are executing a typed query. The other thing is, just like the query we executed, you can also use where conditions in here. So we'll write a simple where condition in here. So find by ID. Oops, what's find by ID? Actually, let's just say query basic, or you can call this JPQL basic. And this is JPQL typed. And this is JPQL with a where. And over here, select start from course where our condition within single quote, where name like percent 100 steps. Now let's see what this would print. This is select start from course where name like 100 steps. These two courses are printed in the console. Web services in 100 steps and Spring Boot in 100 steps. Those two things which end with 100 steps are printed in. So JPQL, as we talked earlier, we are using entities. In a future step, we would actually use the relationships as well. Here we are just using entities. When we define relationship between course and students, what we'll do is we'll use that relationship also to write queries using JPQL. For now, all the queries that we have written are very simple ones. Until the next step, bye bye.